Like a one there.
Okay.
No, I don't feel so bad, at least I know they're.
We're not losing their minds.
Good evening, everyone. I'll call the financial services meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Next on our agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. There will be a couple of additions tonight. Under A, District 11, Glencoe Hall Community Association. Councillor Allotment.
That's 6A.
That would be 6A, yes.
Yep.
And we also have another addition, it would be 6C, Victor County Forest School. For asking for $1,000 for a boardwalk to base camp. Yes, board member.
I would like to have added as proposed under the recreational allotments for District 6, Salt Springs 4H.
I'm going to miss one there, so District 6.
That'd be 6A again, would it?
Yes, it would be 6A again, so District 6, Salt Springs 4H.
Thank you.
And that's for operating expenses.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call for motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Warden Parker, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any other additions? Oh, go ahead.
Deputy Warden already moved it.
Oh, you moved. Okay, sorry.
I didn't think I did that.
Sorry. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. All right, so next we have the approval of the minutes for January 17th, 2022. Okay, so moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Boyles. Any omissions or corrections in those minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Number 4, we have reports. First, we have recreation. Moved by Councillor Palmer. Seconded by Councillor Wadden. Questions or comments on the recreation report? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the communications report.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Boyles, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any questions or comments concerning the communications report? Warden Parker.
I believe it's there in the February 2022, is we are flying the Pan American flag up front. Honor of African Heritage Month, it should say Pan African flag.
Okay, thank you for that correction. Right, seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have accounts paid for the month of January.
I'll move them.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Parker, seconded by Councillor Palmer. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the first page, page 103, check number 18193, amount of $20,603 for the town of Glasgow. It says 2122 tax, New Scotland. I'm just not clear who's collecting the tax or who we're paying the tax to. I'm not sure what mechanisms at work here.
Okay,
That's it. Clarification.
So we bill
We bill,
and
we collect,
we collect and we split 50-50. So
and that's what that is.
that would be that. Yeah.
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions on the accounts paid the month of January? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Go ahead, Chesky.
Thanks,
No. Councilor Howard.
the very next thing in that, schedule for the transfer tax. Tremendous money come in lately on that, hasn't there? So, well, we already got 7 million into that. So all this extra that's going in all the time, are we bringing our rate down, or we just keep paying for the whole amount of time? Tell me what's the overflow doing here? Like, we have to have a certain amount of dollars, okay? And we haven't been even near that amount since a couple of years, I would say. So, but just, can you give me a little explanation where that extra money's going all the time? And are we paying more in our share right now, or just explain it to me if I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the excess basically goes into a reserve fund or a deferred fund. So it basically is to cover future payments that would come. So there's a balloon payment potentially coming, or it is coming this year. So the D-Transfer Tax Trust will decide whether it pays the debt down faster, type thing. So that's really what it does. The excess just goes towards paying debt. Because of the way debt is financed in Nova Scotia, there's no early payment options. So once you lock in the debenture, you're locked in. You can't pay it off early. So we just set the money aside for the day that balloon payments come due and reduce the debt.
So the balloon payment would just be from the municipality?
No, it's for the entire center, so for the wellness center. So the wellness center has a balloon payment of 6.6 million coming due this November. So the trust will decide how it wishes to refinance that. And so it can use surplus monies that it has on hand. So right now there's, give or take a few dollars, but $3 million in trust. But there's other projects and things that it has to pay for. It has to pay for the hospital renovations, things of that nature. So those debentures are locked in for 15 years. I think so.
So what would your estimate be? Like that 3 million is for all municipalities' money, or just our?
No, it's everybody's. It's cumulative.
Okay.
So the fund right now is pretty much performing the way our original model was projected back in 2009. The last 2 years have pretty much brought it back to that model. Type thing. So
Well, since last March, we're pretty well a year.
and this is its best year. The current fiscal year we're in right now will be its best year ever.
So,
Because we've already exceeded last year, which was our best year ever.
so
And we still had roughly
there's a chance though that a whole bunch of our money, the municipality's money, is gonna just almost disappear then. It's gonna go on a debt that it just doesn't seem fair that we're gonna pay, okay, let's say 400,000 that's extra that we really didn't have to. It shouldn't it kind of go in an account for down the road, like a rainy day thing, instead of just being a balloon amount right now? Because that's benefiting the whole outfit, but it's not just benefiting the county, and that's county money.
But there's surplus money from everybody in there.
That's surplus money from everywhere?
Yeah, the 3
So
million.
this is the total, like last month wasn't so much, it was 58,000. So that's all 6 or 5?
No, that's just your portion, right? So your
Well, that's
portion,
my portion is what our
yes,
portion is what I want to look after. Okay,
but our portion goes into a pot. That was the
agreement?
agreement. It's all for one, so it goes into the pot. If the fund doesn't perform, then the municipal units are on the hook for their proportionate share, and it's based on population.
I don't think we were ever under on our payment ever. The municipality, were we?
Up until the last 2 years, we were not actually meeting the model. We
No,
was,
but our share at the time, like, it was gonna be how much, like 38,000 a month or 40,000 a month? Well, on that piece of paper, it shows that, okay,
yeah, so we were, just slightly behind the model. Not far, like within 1%, we'll say, of the original model, but we're now on track, as is everybody. I think so.
Councilor Dick Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a 15-year debenture.
The hospital renovations were both taken out over, there was 2 phases to that. They were both taken out over 15 years. The wellness center was, the initial debenture was taken out for 10 years with a balloon payment at year 10, and the amortization was always based on 25. So it was, they were actually structured for cash flow purposes, so we didn't have to come back to the units. So the hospital ones are actually amortized over a 30-year period, but the maximum you can go to market for is 15. So it basically just reduces our principal payments each year.
So catching the chase then. The first one to pay out will be the wellness center.
The wellness center debenture comes due this November. It'll have to be refinanced, but whether it's refinanced for 6.6 or a lesser number, because we have money around, will be determined by the trust.
Yeah, the amount of money that's in the fund at the time. Or, yeah, well, I'm that type of person. I like to pay things off early if we can. But if an debenture is already locked in, there's no possibility to do that.
No, so that's what we'll look at this year with the refinancing of the debt, is whether or not we continue to work it over a 25-year period, or we reduce that down. Right now, the fund would have everything retired early if we continue on this track.
Well, I'm correct, Pat, wrong. This, we may be in a bubble here. It may not be this good 3 years from now.
Exactly. So that right now we're back to our original model, which was 2009. We had reduced that about 5 years ago. We had kind of made different projections. We had reduced that because it wasn't performing. We were in a lull. Now we're back up to where we were. So it is cyclical, right? Type thing. So right now, we'll ride this wave as long as we can, right? And put the money aside for the payments or rainy day, future date.
Okay, Board Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following up, Councilor Gilbert's question about, rural money versus, county money. We've been, we're well over twice what we were a few years back. Are the other municipal units, I know it's all for one for all, but are their figures about the same as ours, double or double and a half, or is it different in some units than others?
All units have seen a significant increase, whether it's double or not, but they're all, the last I looked at, it's been a couple months, and I started to do that drill down, but they were all meeting the original projections.
It's not like our money's going in there and such that somebody else, everybody's making more money than they were before, turning more money out.
For sure.
Yeah, the other point I just want to make clear is that this money, this excess that we can use as a loan payment or whatever, can only be used for capital costs, right? Because we've got a tremendous deficit right now at the wellness center because it hasn't hardly been running for the last several months. Just bare running scheme, so there's a lot of extra, deficit that's going to have to be covered by the 5 units. But none of that's available, is that right, to cover any of that
It can pay, the trust can pay up to 250,000 toward the deficit.
It has to be agreed, by the municipal units each year.
It's only been done once, and that was kind of the first year that it opened. We were in that, it opened in December, and I think to the end of March, they did contribute 100, it was like 110,000 towards the deficit. That's the only time it's
Some
happened.
of those excess dollars that we've been lucky enough to have come in would help us at budget time or help some of the other units through at budget time by covering up to 250,000 per year. Does that have to be agreed to by all the units before that happens?
It has to be agreed to by the trust.
By the trust to allow that to happen?
Yeah.
Who are the members of the trust again?
The 5
Units.
units.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving on to 4D, NSFM, and Council One.
I think we have Chair. At our last board meeting, which was held February 4th, we had a presentation from the Deputy Minister, Paul Flesh, and Peck. Highlights from that discussion include our service agreement and MOU with the province is currently in the queue. NSFM is putting a committee together to work on this issue with the province. The code of conduct, they're looking at a single model of the province, and we should be hearing more on this in the March timeframe. $2 million, one from the feds and one from the province, to study climate change, and much activity on that agenda. Reviewing the municipal framework, no new information on property tax or deed transfer on this. They're assisting Antigonish Town and County as they go through the process of putting together. And continuing to work through recommendations from the Housing Commission report. There are 2 major challenges with long-term care homes, one being staffing, and the second, 29 facilities are being replaced or modified. And the announcement came out last week on this in both Glen Haven and Valley View will make the list. Province is interested to see whether municipal governments are across the province on enabling legislation. We had a presentation from Rebecca Colstein on the Not Myself Today program. This is part of the municipal wellness program. Currently, there is a pilot project going on, and Glasgow is part of this pilot. This program will open again next year, and she hopes more municipalities will consider joining up. The NSFM has submitted a proposal to the province on the Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund, and if selected, we will have more information to provide concerning the role that will be played by the NSFM on this. President McDougall spoke of meeting with AMENS, and basically the discussion centered on how we can work better together. And there's a staff update. Charlotte Taverner is a new staff administration person in the office there. On the caucus updates, concerns with the NSP proposed rate increases. NSFM has been asked to look into what is involved with intervener status. A lot is involved with this position, but staff will look at this and get back to the board on it. If staffing is seen as an issue, then perhaps the committee can set up in the future on this. On the EPR for PPP, our last board's and mayor's call presentation was done for this group. I want us to bring new councillors up to date on this project. Reforming the oath of allegiance and the oath of office, and they'll provide a draft copy for our next board meeting. RCMP and policing concerns. FCM has a national committee on the RCMP. We're looking for an Atlantic rep, and Juanita has volunteered to sit on the board. She does currently sit on our provincial board. A concern has been brought forward that NSFM seems to be representing just the RCMP and needs to address town police. AMA has requested the NSFM support concerning issues with the Nova Scotia Department of Housing changes for some municipalities, and we'll have the AMA draft the letter so we don't miss anything on that. Our spring conference is planned as an in-person conference at the White Point Resort from May 4th to May 6th of this year. Registration should soon be coming up for this event, and hopefully it really will be our first in-person conference in 2 years. Finally, we're meeting tomorrow, which is February 23rd, to discuss the feedback we have received concerning our organizational changes for NSFM. Overall, the feedback is quite positive, but there are some concerns and suggestions. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have something you want to add to this conversation. All board members were set up on the phone tree to reach out to all boards and mayors. I reached out to Evan Parker, Mayor Jim Ryan, Mayor Nancy Dix, and Mayor Ron Chisholm. We want to capture the feedback from across the province to move forward and tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Councillor One. All right, moving on to number 5, municipal grant extensions. Okay, so we have for recreation, Hillside Community Society, $12,500, second installment for hall extension. Cook County Snow Riders, $12,500, first installment for groomer. Real Canadian Recreation, $12,500, first installment roof 7 deck. Cook County Trails Association, $1,000, second installment on spent balance. Riverview Home Volunteer Association, $2,920.37 on spent balance recreation programming. Next, for council, we have Nova Scotia SPCA, $5,000 construction costs for new facility. And municipal services, District 1, Kensington and District Community Center, in the amount of $659.97 for operating expenses. Here's your pleasure, councilors. Moved by Warden Parker, seconded by Councilor Boyles. Any questions or comments? Warden Parker.
Here, we're in the example of the second two of the Pitt County Snow Riders and Real Canadian Recreation, where it's the first installment and they're asking for that to be extended. And so the second installment would take place this year. Does the second installment take place, you have it all at once, or does that delay to the second installment of the year?
No. That's,
No, we would pay the second.
Okay, so they get the, well, they've already got the check, I guess, for the first. They don't have to show that they spent the first. They would get the second without having to do that. Okay, just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Warden Parker. Councilor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've been doing this now for 2 years, allowing the groups that have received money to delay it because of COVID primarily and restrictions around that. And I certainly agree with that. I'm wondering, however, we should include in the approval of these extensions just a polite notice that this may not continue, that we do have to get back to a more normal process. It appears that COVID has somewhat run its course. We may have a fairly normal summer and fall. That's when most of these things get done. I'm just suggesting that we put a polite reminder that though we extended it, this is not an indefinite thing. They should try to get caught up now. You know, assuming the Hillside Community Society is going to go ahead with their extension, I'm assuming that the snow riders maybe are going to buy a groomer and so on. But I'm just suggesting that we include a reminder that this will not go on forever. These extensions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
We do that. We basically say it is a 1 year.
Yeah.
And expectation is that it will be completed.
Please spend this money.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Go ahead, Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the Nova Scotia SPCA, $1,000 construction cost for new facility. Do we get information on that? I might have missed it, but I don't remember seeing it, that's all.
We had it at grant time. We had their proposal
Last year.
last year, but I think it may have been subject to, it may have been subject to them receiving other levels of government support as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go right ahead, Carolyn.
that funding was conditional on 2 other levels of government, and they are still working through the approval process there. So we have not actually released the first installment to them because they've not met the conditions. So that is why they're asking for an extension to receive that money.
Okay.
So we can realize it was an extension of the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they are told when they get the extension that it is a 1-year extension and no further extensions will be granted.
Okay. All right. All right, moving on, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded nay. Motion carried. Next, we're going to go on to the 6 funding requests. I think we'll handle all 6A together. So first for the counselor allotments, we have District 2, Little Harbor Pickleball Community operating expenses. District 5, Scottsburg Recreation operating expenses. District 6, Salt Springs 4-H Club operating expenses. District 7, Union Center Community Club operating expenses. And District 11, Glencoe Hall Community Association operating expenses. Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Wyden, seconded by Councillor Dewar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the 6B Fishing Gear Coalition. They are requesting $3,500 end-of-life wire lobster traps feasibility study. Okay,
Madam Chair, did you deal with the capital request from the Forest School?
yes, I put that as 6C.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So the letter, I think, is pretty much self-explanatory what they're hoping to do. So they have applied to FCM for funding, but there is a requirement that there's a local contribution. So the local contribution is $35,000. So they're basically asking 10 municipalities to contribute to that. CBRM and Victoria County have both committed that they would join this. And so it is before the other, I guess, rural municipalities that have significant fishing communities. So we are one of them. So the request is for 3,500. It's really, I guess, contingent on them getting the FCM grant, which would pay for the bulk of the work. They are looking for a host unit. That will not be us. If we contribute cash, and somebody else can be the coordinator of it. But that is in essence the request. So there are 2 units that have answered yes as of last week. So.
Okay. Board Parker?
I'm not clearly understanding this one. I know what they're trying to do. I think perhaps gather up a whole lot of little traps that are around that are going to become garbage, or going to become ugly sites in our landscape on the county. Or are they trying to look at ways to, get the traps that are left in the water and then how to deal with those, rinse the thing through, and a lot of it seems to be maybe get some old ones that are sitting around. There's 2 questions I have. One is, what are we as a municipal taxpayer, I guess, paying for this? It seems to me that it should be an industry thing, paying for it, not the taxpayer. But I may be misunderstanding it. That's my biggest concern is which ones are we? Is it a cleanup or is it a feasibility study on how to look after them in the future? And why is it falling on the taxpayer? Why, if we're dealing with it as a taxpayer funded thing, should it be under our council grants? Would that be where we're looking at this rather than just picking it up by itself? Should it be one of those considered council grants, or maybe they need it before that? I don't know what the reasoning is on that. That's the questions I have. I was just a bit taken aback when I read it, as to how it fit in with what we do here.
Timing is one of the things.
Couldn't wait for a council grant.
Yeah, they're basically under a deadline to apply to FCM for funding. I took it to be that it was traps that were still in the water as well as derelict traps that.
Clean up then a little bit.
Yeah, and that they're really trying to create a pilot project that would create a solid waste kind of management
In the future, we're not turning.
Yeah, that's the way I took it, but
Councillor Butler.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think this is a step in the right direction. We only have to walk along our beaches and see some of this debris. And to think from an environmental point of view, as well as taxonomy, that perhaps is one of the major industries in our county here, that we should be supporting this effort. I would like to move that we do the support this grant.
Okay, Mover, you have seconder? Councillor Trevor, you seconded?
I will second it.
Okay,
I would like to speak on it.
yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I suspect it's much needed. Okay, but there are a lot of, they mentioned somewhere close to a quarter of the tracks a year don't come back. Have to be replaced. Fairly easy to finance our current budget through a levy, maybe about $1.50 per trap. I don't know what those things are worth, but I'm sure they're not cheap. My concern, I guess, is that just how do you get them out of there? They're sitting on the bottom, spread all over that bottom, both inshore and offshore. And, must be fairly difficult to find and fish out of there. But expensive to find fish out of it. The principle of industry paying for it is one that I would tend to support in this case and other cases. I know there's a program to recycle dirty plastic that comes off of hay bales. And that's, I understand, funded through an industry organization, but it's a relatively small amount. Want to get this thing rolling, find someone at the next outfit in St. John, Brunswick, that recycles metal. Yeah, it's a big job because they're bulky, they're spread all over everywhere, some of them don't be smashed and so on and so forth. I just can't seem to get my head around the logistics of getting this done. But if they can find a way to do it responsibly and environmentally soundly, I have no problem supporting the $3,500.
okay, thank you. Councillor Warden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have the same concerns as Woody Parker. I think for me, it's the community grants. I think we made a point of following our policy that people just can't be able to cancel us for grant money. They can go through a community grant process. And as good a project as I think this is, I really think it should be done through our community grant process. I don't like turning others away and then picking and choosing who we give grants to, so I prefer to do it through the community grant process.
Okay. Brian, did they give a deadline of when we had to respond by?
they have to have their application into FCM by March 1st.
Councillor Palmer.
$3,500 is not a lot of money, but I'm not getting out of what some of the other councils getting out. If you look at the budget, 209,000 of it is for contracting metals recyclers to collect, remove, recycle, up to 115,000 wired lobster traps from commercial and personal properties in partnership with municipalities. So it's going to people's properties, taking the traps off there and recycle. It's not actually taking them out of the water, as far as I understand. And then the rest, there's $55,000 for reporting, financing, and financial and environmental stuff. Education and outreach is $35,000. And project management and administration is $51,000 for a total of $350,000. So it's more of collecting these metal traps from people's property and recycle, and then try to educate, doing a little education with them. But it's $3,500, and I don't have a problem with that, but it's not something that they're going to look at the waters for these traps. So anyway,
Okay,
that's the deal.
All right, thank you. Counselor Boyles?
To me, when I first read it, I wondered, what it was all about, and again, I just wonder, it's, Councilor Palmer was just saying, and some of the other questions here of, somebody gonna come next week looking for something to pick up apples, to get rid of the apples, or it just, to me, there's not enough really to say what they are doing or not doing, or, what is out there for them besides, going this way, so I just don't know enough about it.
Okay, Deputy Warden Murray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Randy. The way I read it here is that said the research found that 244,000 lobster traps, of which 212,000 were wire traps, are replaced annually by fish services. Nova Scotia disposal practices are inconsistent across the province. So the way I see it, it's out your backyard or off the horse or something like that. It's not going into the water and been taken out. And I kind of agree with Debbie that this should be on council grants. I think put it to that. And we do have a recycle program here that among the fishers in this part of Pepper County is there's one person that makes the cement for the traps. He gets all the old water traps that you get from the fishermen, cut it up and put that traps, which he gets rid of a lot that way. So I'm not quite agreeable with it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Nay. Nays, do you want to raise your hand?
Still online. Fans? Doesn't matter.
That's it.
Larry, use your hand. Larry, Andy? You nays or yays? Okay.
My hand is up on the screen there.
Oh, okay. It's very small. Okay, I see it. I see it now.
That's it.
It's an A.
No,
She asked for the nays hands.
Yeah.
Jacob, you nay?
No, I seconded that, voted for it. Hey, concerned, but I voted for it.
So may I ask, this is something that we're going to ask them to apply for our capital, or is this completely?
we can reply and just say we can't meet the deadline, and if they, and we can consider it at grant time.
Okay.
Just
Councilor Hunter?
Just on that, Brian, and our deadline for that is Friday,
Yeah, 28.
or Monday.
Yeah, the last 14 day, whatever the last 14 day of February is.
Monday, yeah.
Yes. Okay, next we'll move on to C. One moment here. We had a request. All right, here we go. So we've had another recreational grant request. Pictou County Forest School is looking for a $1,000 capital grant from our recreation budget to assist with the expense of building a boardwalk into their base camp. During the fall and spring, the area in question is very wet with standing water, and the boardwalk with ease access and egress for camp participants. Material supplies and labor are expected to cost $2,000. They're seeking $1,000 from us, and will fundraise for the remaining 50%. Deputy Warden Murray.
Is there capital money left in the recreation grant?
There is the 1,000.
If there is, then I'm so ready. Forest School is a great asset to this county. They do a lot of good things.
It's very popular, very popular. All right, so it's moved by Deputy Warden Murray, seconded by Warden Parker. Counselor Elliott.
I was gonna second it.
Okay, sorry. Counselor Boyles.
So is, this just to build materials, is it, it's not for labor or anything, is it, or?
It says materials, supplies, and labor are expected to cost $2,000.
Well, you know, I just wondered, why don't they try and get the 144 engineers to turn around and build it for them, you know what I mean? And then all they have stuff up their supplies, but that's just an idea for them.
Okay. Counselor Parker.
I'd like to speak strongly in favor. I can't imagine it's a very big boardwalk for about $2,000. That's okay. They don't need a short boardwalk, get across a small area of swamp or whatever you want to call it. It's just the whole idea of forest education. The vast majority of residents, at least those who weren't brought up on woodlot, don't know much about forests. Okay, one way or the other, whether you're green or not so green. So anything you can do, in my opinion, to increase the knowledge of the general public on forests is a good thing. This is a good thing.
Anyone else like to speak on the motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go right ahead, Carolyn.
just to Councillor Boyles' point, of that $2,000 budget for this project, $1,600 is for materials and supplies, and $400 is labor.
Okay, all right, thank you, Carolyn. Okay, seeing no other questions or comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we'll move on to number 7, loan guarantee request, Pictou Landing and East River Valley Fire Departments. Right?
I don't have a lot more to add than what was contained in the memo. Policy, we do have a policy in place that allows us to grant loan guarantees to fire departments for capital purposes. So both of these do meet that criteria. And neither of these departments have a loan guarantee with us at this point. So that is one of the other criteria that we have. Is in essence, we say that we won't issue a second loan guarantee if the first loan guarantee is not substantially paid off, I think. So neither have it, so they meet the terms, and both are in the process of meeting the requirement that they have a meeting with their district to explain the purpose of the loan and the guarantee and the consequences if they default on that, which is basically an area rate that would be imposed. So, other than that, it will require a formal guarantee be passed off of council, and still waiting on the text from the province on that. And then the loan guarantees are submitted to the minister for approval. They require ministerial approval before taking effect. So.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, I have you on my list here, Andy.
I'll make a motion to recommend to council to do the loan guarantees for these two departments.
I'll second that.
It's been seconded by Councillor Wyden. Okay. Councillor Parker.
I wanted to note that these two departments were 2 of the 5 that we've been trying to assist over the last year or so. Otherwise, they're on the bottom end of the scale. But I have a question too. What is the advantage of seeking a loan guarantee? Do you get a better rate at the bank?
I don't know if they get a better rate, depending on which bank they go to, but
There's more likely to approve.
it's the approval because they had a guarantee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Warden Parker.
I'll certainly be supporting the motion. I think, same as we do about tax receipts to help certain areas that can't, are not getting whatever. This is something we can do as a council. Really doesn't cost us any money, and it has protection even for the rest of the residents if something were to go wrong and there'd be an area rate to cover that. But, so I think it's a good idea. I was just wondering if there's any a set amount of time and it has to be paid off, is that all bank determined? Do we have any limits in our policy on, I know we have a limit, don't come back with for more, you substantially pay this off, but is there any number of years at all in there in terms of how long it can take to pay it off?
No, I don't think I don't remember seeing that, so.
It's really up to the bank what time they want to pay back.
Yeah.
Not a problem, I just wondered.
And most have, both of them have a financing plan, so it's reasonable what they're looking for in terms of paying them off, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Just,
Go
if I,
ahead, Councillor Thompson.
thank you. Just I'm familiar with the East River Valley request. They've held meetings, their executive, regarding this. They're purchasing a new truck, and they've already put the first half of their down payment down. They have a very aggressive plan on paying it off, and the loan guarantee is just a mechanism that they can have in their back pocket in case they run into an issue of cash flow. But their intentions are to hopefully never have to use it.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Thank you, Councillor One.
Just for information, I think the Maine Fire Department, that you mentioned the same, though, they do have funding requests out there, and this, if they fail, they would have to go through the bank to get a loan, and just for some of the funding requests they require.
Okay,
And if I could, Madam Chair, one more thing.
go ahead.
Just on that, the history behind this policy was brought up by former Councillor Jamie Davidson. And it was the whole issue about volunteers having to co-sign loans. Personally co-sign on the line. So this takes that onus away from those volunteers. That's the purpose of, one of the purposes of this policy.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seeing no other, go ahead.
Just to the warden's question, there is no time limit.
Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to 8. We have a alcohol, gaming, fuel, and tobacco division of Nova Scotia. We have a memorandum of understanding. This is for liquor license zoning requests. Go ahead.
So this is just an attempt to streamline and I guess eliminate some bureaucracy around how liquor licenses are done. So in essence, the obligations that are on the municipality are they will send us a request. We have 5 days to respond to the request saying that it meets the terms of the land use bylaw or not, type thing. So it's part of the red tape reduction initiative. So that's really what it's trying to do, is just streamline how people work through the system. And for us, we don't really impose on that type of business at this point. So it would just be us signing the development officer signing the form and returning it saying that they comply with the terms, but it's just meant to streamline.
For all the municipalities in the province.
Yeah, there's, I think, I believe there's 26 municipalities have signed on so far.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Cratchit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Many years ago, we used to have wet districts and dry districts. In order to get a liquor license in a dry district, it had to be a plebiscite. Is there any dry districts left, or did anybody have that
Yeah,
concept?
I think they get away with that concept.
Yeah.
Because
What's behind the time? That's my first question.
Yeah.
The second one is, since we do not yet have the exception of our wind bylaw, any land use planning, that's something that's probably gonna happen once our masks come off. There's really no question here whether or not they qualify. So there's no areas that don't qualify. They're all wet. They're all, and there are no restrictions other than for wind turbines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what it really does is it streamlines. In the past, we'd have to issue a clearance letter. Now it's, in essence, it's just a form that we sign. Right? So.
Okay, Councillor One?
People still have to apply, but when they want another license plate, and this isn't going to change that.
Right, so that onus is still on that side and going through all the regulations that are required by the alcohol and gaming, right? So all of those are still in place. That's just how the Alcohol and Gaming Commission deals with us, is what really they're trying to streamline.
Okay, so we need a motion tonight to approve the signing of this memorandum of understanding. Is that what I'm gathering, Brian?
Correct.
So moved.
It moved by Councillor Parker,
Second.
seconded by Deputy Warden Murray. Any final comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we'll move on to number 9. We have a staff recommendations, and this is from Karen for tax write-offs. So Karen, is there anything you'd like to discuss?
Okay, Madam Chairman, recently the state of our tax receivables has been under review by the audit committee, and more specifically the audit chairman, who felt that they needed to be reviewed. Tax collection officer hasn't been reviewing the state of our mobile homes. So we in the finance office, especially Rhiannon, took on the task of reviewing all the mobile homes that had significant amounts of taxes outstanding and that were no longer assessed once we loaded the new roll on. So what we have in front of you there is any mobile home or dwelling that is not on the 2022 assessment roll or no longer assessed on the assessment roll, and has taxes outstanding, and they're unable to locate this mobile home. We've contacted the assessment department on this, and they're unable to locate this mobile home for us. So it's broken into 3 sections, and the first section is these mobile homes or dwelling, no land, just a dwelling, which is the majority of these write-offs. And the second section are provincial properties that the province has taken over in the past year, which we have to write off the taxes that they're not going to pay. And then the third and the last section is a municipal property where the wind towers are located. That's considered a commercial property, so we have to write off those taxes because we don't pay taxes to ourselves. So that's what you have in front of you, is that schedule. And as it breaks down, the total amount is $159,368.32. That includes $69,000 in penalty.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just trying to understand, a lot of them are not there anymore, they're not being located, they become garbage property and have been removed. But are you not still responsible for the tax going, like you haven't paid tax on your mobile home for 6 to 7 years, and you get rid of it or whatever, you get rid of the obligation, I guess, to pay the tax on it. I know we can't go and sell the property if it's not there anymore, but I'm just wondering about the obligation for the person. If you owe $3,000, let's say, in back taxes that were never paid, do those just disappear because you got rid of your mobile? Or your trailer or whatever? I'm just wondering how that works. It seems odd that you can wipe out your tax bill simply by getting rid of the mobile. I don't know
We
if
can't.
I'm understanding or
These people we can't locate.
And, okay, so you can't collect money because they're just not here anymore, or not, that you can't locate. Okay, it just seems odd that you can sort of walk away from it because you're not locatable, or you don't have the, if they moved away, I guess, they're west, and, you can't locate them, you got no forwarding address or something. Other than that, it seems that people still should hold the money just because they got rid of the mobile. It doesn't, why that might show whether we can locate them or not, should they still hold the money? Everybody else pays their taxes.
Well, we can leave them on the receivable list, account tax receivable, outstanding receivable list, but we can't locate these people to collect it.
Okay, I don't have an answer for how you locate them for sure, but it seems odd that you can just kind of get away with not paying your taxes because you're not locatable. You still should hold them in case you show up someday, in my opinion.
Councilor Crawford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So almost all of these are mobile homes without any land attached.
There's no land attached to any of these properties.
Thank you. That's one question now. So they cannot locate the mobile home, and they cannot locate that person.
They can't locate the mobile home. And we've tried to we've sent bills out to all these people, and we can't. These bills have all come back.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Bueller?
Thank you. Counselor. What about collection? Can you put them in for collection, or are we allowed to do that? There's names on there, I know, that are still in Victor County.
We haven't put them in for collection, but we could, if that's the direction.
Well, did we ever do that before?
We did it once with very little success.
Okay. So they get a percentage. What do they get? Half or a quarter, or what do they get? What they?
I don't know what it would be now.
Okay. Well, it just seems like there's some awful big money on there to me. I don't know. Maybe some of those names are just names, duplicate names of somebody you might have known, but I'm sure if some of the councilors looked at that, there'd be some names on there that might have been familiar to them. But I know there's ones on here like that they owe 11,000 or 12,000, but not like they ever get them ones. But there's lots of ones on there that are a lot less than that. I don't think we should just write it off right off the bat. But anyway, that's just my idea. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor One?
Karen, this is just a way of cleaning up the records, is it? Like, we can't contact these people. We don't
I'm
have
sorry, I
contact.
can't understand you.
Sorry, it's just a way of cleaning up the records, is it? This is what we talked about with the audit committee, cleaning up some of the records, that we're never going to receive the funding of money from these people. It's just a way of cleaning up our records. Is that what we're trying to do with this?
We took it upon ourselves to do a deep dive on the receivable to see what accounts we could look at that the tax collection officer wasn't looking at, that we could look at and do something with, that had old outstanding taxes on. None of these accounts are going to be assessed in the upcoming year. and the tax bills were coming back on these ones. And so we contacted PVSC to see what's going on with these accounts. And PVSC came back with the mobile is not there anymore, or the dwelling is not there, or whatever. But these accounts are not going to be assessed, these accounts are not assessed in 2022.
So I think a point, tax sale is not an option for these properties.
Yes. Thank you, Peter. Now make the motion that we write these off.
Break them off, okay, you have a seconder? David Carver?
I'd like to speak as well.
No, I have a list, just.
Oh, okay.
Just 1 second, please. Councillor Boyles?
I was just wondering, is there any repeats, like you have, and I don't mean just on this list, but at other times that you've written them off and they've done it again, you know what I mean? And I was just wondering, like, you think in this day and age there'd be a way to track them down and you know, get them somehow or the other? Is there any repeats?
Didn't go far as back, we didn't go back that far to look to see if there's any repeats. We just checked, we were dealing with what we had in front of us.
Okay. Councillor David Carver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second that motion because I think we should support this, because we're supporting our staff. Our staff took the initiative, they heard the criticism coming out of the audit committee. They took an initiative to find a way to reduce this somewhat. These are probably the worst of the worst. There's really no chance of ever collecting on them. That's why I think we should recommend to council to have these written off. We don't want to spend our staff's time and energy on trying to collect these ones that are probably almost impossible to collect. So we should be supporting our staff, number one. We shouldn't be wasting our staff's time making them go back and recheck everything. They deem that these are almost certainly uncollectible, then I support it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Gordon Murray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly agree with Councilor Dave Carter. And I just wonder, as a question, is there any way that we could red flag these names and set them aside somewhere in case there's a repeat again? Is that possible? Question.
Other than the public record, I guess, would be there, like the list would be part of our public record, but the accounts don't exist, so it would be very difficult for us to do it on our financial system because these accounts no longer exist, so the names are basically deleted from kind of the system, but certainly this list will remain in, I guess, perpetuity as part of the.
Okay, thank you.
Word record?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can support the motion. I just don't like the message it sends to the rest of our taxpayers that some people can just walk away from their taxes. I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there that work really hard to come up with enough every year to pay their taxes. And I realize these ones aren't ones you take to a tax sale and all of that, but you know, every time we sort of do something like this, we're sending a message to the other taxpayers. You know, some people are getting off with them, well, they have to pay theirs. But I do support it from the point of view of what Brenda said, and the staff worked hard on this and trying to clean this up, so I support that part of it for sure. And it's probably a waste of time to spend a whole lot more time on it. But it is difficult for some taxpayers that have great difficulty paying the taxes, as well as the fact that not everybody pays the taxes. I guess that's true anyway, whether we say it about it or not. Thank you.
Peter, did you think Councillor Boyle?
Just really quick, I'm sorry. I'm just wondering what sort of message are we sending it there that now people in mobile homes or whatever, they're, well, let's not pay taxes, let's just turn it into, we have a mobile home stay in it for, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years and then take off and we won't have to pay. So I can't support the motion myself, but it's just because I think the staff are doing a great job. And I know that they're trying their best, but at the same time, I think we're sending the wrong message just to say, oh, we'll write it off.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, can I just ask one question from the chair? Do these people on the list own any other property or seen anywhere else on our, I guess, own any other properties in Hector County that are behind or up to date on? Or do we know that?
I would say that wasn't looked at. This was specific property or accounts, so it wasn't if person X, did they own other property? We wouldn't have looked across that. It wouldn't really make a difference in how we would collect, right? Like, we can't, because they have a mobile home here, we can't transfer the taxes over to another piece of land that they may own. Like, that's not the way that the system works for us, type thing. So we wouldn't have gone to that level of detail, but I think the notion that Karen said the staff were not able to locate these people. I think the vast majority of them are not on the roll in any other way, or the names don't correspond. And one of the people that's on the list is deceased. So, right. So.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I was just wondering in the future, what's to prevent this from happening and be repeated again? Is there something in place so that if someone does put a mobile home?
The way that the PVSC assesses mobile homes is different now to start with. That's one thing. So a lot of these back taxes, you won't see it, you shouldn't see anymore because they assess mobile homes differently now than they were years ago, with a lot of the ones the way they're assessed here. Now they attach them to the landowner. So you shouldn't see a separate mobile home assessed.
Okay, so what you're saying is the chances of it happening in the future is it's not going to.
You shouldn't see something like a large schedule like this with all these outstanding taxes like this, like a huge schedule within this large amount. So,
thank you.
I mean, we can try to send it to collections. We can still make a motion for write-off and still and collections at the same time.
Okay. Mover and seconder, how do you feel with that? You don't have a problem with that? Seconder, you okay with that? David?
Debbie and I.
So Debbie made the motion, or sorry, Councillor Warren made the motion and it was seconded by Councillor Parker.
I just feel we're beating a dead horse, but I want to fix it.
Okay. All right, so it's been amended. Deputy Warden Murray?
I really don't think that has to be amended. That'd be up to staff if they want to do that after the write-off and stuff like that. If they want to watch it.
Okay.
But I don't think it should be in the motion.
You don't think it should be in the motion? Okay. So you think it should be up to staff if they want to pursue it or not? Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead, Councillor
I
Warren.
just ask Karen, are you okay with that, Karen? You make the decision? Whether
Yeah,
it's-
sure. Yeah.
Just each case is individual too, right? There's always an individuality component. Okay, seeing no more comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay.
Okay.
One nay. Motion carried. Okay. Next, we have number 10, Winnipeg Grant Opportunity Shop Board of Directors. So we have the Opportunity Shop in Pictou. We have an email that's received in our package from CAO of Town of Pictou, who wanted to reach out to us to let us know that according to the Opportunity Shop in Pictou, according to the bylaws, they request one member from the council from the town and one from the county. For somebody to participate on, if there's somebody willing to participate on that board. Go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
Just a question, what is the opportunity shop?
So it's downtown Pictou. The Opportunity Shop has different things for lower income. So there's some clothes and food. There's a little bit of everything to help out members of our community. The West.
And what's the purpose of the council? Is it not-for-profit organization?
It is a not-for-profit. Their bylaws state that they're supposed to have one from the town and one from the county. I'm not sure when their bylaws were enacted, but I've been here since 2005 and we've never appointed anybody to it. So the request kind of came out of the blue last week, and I asked that very question: what exactly do they do? And it is it's kind of like they provide some things, like it could be household items, could be to people that are disadvantaged in some way at that particular time. So
there's always a lineup when it's going to open. I'll say that. Board Parker.
I've heard a lot of good things about the shop, you know, there's a lot of things in our county, there's a lot of good things, and I can't see us having representatives on them all. You know, if they're looking for a grant or something like that, sometimes they come before the council grants, I guess, like everybody else, but I'm not sure what the advantage to them or us would be at this time of us. But we talked before about how many councils we should have on various outside committees and whatnot, and this one, you know, not to take anything away from all the good that they do for the community. I can't see what benefit would be the priority for us to have one of that.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I did reach out to somebody on the board of directors for the Opportunity Shop to sort of ask the question, what the value of having a council representative on their board of directors was. And like Brian, my memory goes back well beyond Brian's, and this is the first time we've ever had a request to appoint someone to that board. So I don't know if that's something new in recently revised bylaws of the society, but I did not get a call back from the person I was attempting to reach. So I'm not able to give you any more information than that on it.
she's referring to corporate memory.
Sure.
I was going down here to table this, we'll get further information.
Okay.
You want to table it or accept it for information purposes and let them come back?
But I don't see enough support there for right now.
Okay. Is there a second for that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Partial minded nay. Motion carried. Next, we have community announcements. What's happening around the county? Warden Barker.
I mentioned this before, we're going to mention again because we get pretty close now. Full engineer is this Saturday. I'm not able to take part this year because of conflict with some other events. But it's Saturday night February the 26th. And we have, what's the name of the church in there, Primary Road?
Christian Fellowship.
Christian Fellowship, okay, so it's real, or in person, I should say, and also virtual. So if you want to do a walk at home or something, you can do that. So just to remind everybody, and if you can't do it yourself, there's lots of groups doing the walk. There's lots of sponsors. So you can just go on Facebook or computer somewhere, you'll find lots of groups that are will easily take your funds if you want. It is for a good cause. It's for the group that was for young people that don't have any place to stay. Pretty cool these days if you have a place to stay. Just want to remind everybody of that. Nope.
Okay, thank you, Warden Parker. Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, just, outside the community hall, we'll be having, trivia night on the March 12th at 7 p.m. Going to whatever. It's, $8 at the door, get in, and, it sells out usually, I mean, so it's really a good fundraiser, and the fellow that does it, John Anderson, makes a really good night of it. So let's just say it's a St. Patrick's Day on March the 12th.
Okay.
$8.
$8. Okay, any other community announcements? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to referrals to committee, council, and notice the motion. Councillor Parker.
If you've been around driving the last 2 days, and you didn't see the deer, you must put your eyes closed. They are just everywhere in multiple numbers. And I think it's time we started raising that concern. On a strip of highway between exit 20 and exit 19, that would be Pleasant Valley and Salt Springs, I saw probably 20 deer, including 2 that have been hit by cars. Ambulance, police, fire department, everybody was there. There was a serious accident, just a quick one. It's becoming, our deer herd is not well managed. No other way to put it. That's been this way in town for a long time. By the time you're going 35 and 40 and 45 miles an hour, when you're on that highway, you're doing 3 times that speed. And the collisions can be quite serious. And it was a nice day early Saturday afternoon, like I say, between those 2 exits. I counted at least 20 deer on the side of the road, eat grass, a couple decided to cross and one time, and one that did. But it's a cost to all of us in the sense that it reflects back through our insurance that we have to pay. There's sometimes, well, just run in front of you, they run right into you. Not necessarily avoidable. My point, you can't drive a chest door about it. Drive slow, hug the yellow line, and stay on high beams. This was the middle of the day. Okay, bright sunshine. And so I want to have it put on for see what we can suggest to the department. They clearly no longer have the ability to manage severe herds. And they're probably hoping for severe winter. This winter, though, it's been good winter. I don't think it qualifies severe. We've had a lot of melts. Snow back down. Deer herds seem to be doing extremely well. I want that put on that, too, sure. I don't know if the council or the, doesn't matter who would have put it, honestly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think deer in the moon is a sign of a storm coming, is not that. I don't know.
There's
Maybe
a
I'm
pile.
making that up. I don't know. Let's not go with that. Okay, any other referrals? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Dewar, seconded by Councillor Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded nay. Motion carried.
I'd like to call the proper service meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin to acknowledge that we are in the Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Next is the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, moved by Councilor Keen, second Councilor Bowles, Councilor, or Deputy Ward.
Thank you, Manager. Mr. Chairman, item number 20, we can remove that, please, additional is all.
Okay.
Give.
Okay, nothing further. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count my nay. Motion carried. Next is approval of the minutes for January 17, 2022. By the warden. Second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count my nay. Motion carried. Next is reports. First up is the building inspector's report. From by Councilor Bowles. Second by Councilor Boyle. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count my nay. Motion carried. Next is the bylaw dog control officer's report. Moved by Councilor Boyle.
Second it.
Second by Councilor McKeel. Questions? None? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count my nay. Motion carried. Next is the warden's report. By Councilor Dorr. Second. Second by Councilor Butler. Questions? Warden, questions up. I don't think that was there.
I just wanted to mention to everybody that we had a session today with our MP, John Fraser. He was looking for input on the budget, federal budget that will be coming up. And, so I think two of the mayors were in attendance and some of the CAOs from the other towns, the municipalities, along with the Aggies representatives and also from St. Mary's. So there was a good amount of ideas came forward for sure, a lot of ones that we've dealt with here. Rcmp was right up there for sure, and I brought up our, funding for our high-speed internet project and of our primary industries and whatnot. And I did mention mental health later on, but seemed fairly hopeful that there's going to be new money coming from the states for mental health to the province, and that would be the time for us to press the province to get something better in here at the Aberdeen or somewhere close to Aberdeen. But there's, I just thought it was good that ACB would listen to what we had to say, and so if anybody has any thing further they'd like to bring up, Ray Gunn is the one to contact at John Fraser's office. So if you have any ideas on budget that you think we should be looking at, that's what he just basically gathering ideas right now so that he can bring them back when they have their budget discussions. Thank you.
Okay. More questions for the warden? Seeing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count my nay. Motion carried. Next is dangerous and unsightly premises process. Logan, want to go with that?
Hi, everybody. And sorry, I do have a baby here with me, but he just woke up. So the general idea here is that we want to know if there's any appetite to respond directly to complainants about their complaints. Whether we are currently, we're not responding if we don't have any updates. So if we are looking at a dangerous and unsightly complaint from a resident, we're not responding and saying that the issue has been resolved or that we've reviewed it and it does not have any required action. So just wanted to sort of ask the question and speaking with a couple of the councillors here just to see if there's any appetite to provide updates back to complainants.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, it's Larry.
I'll let Larry go first, okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. This is applied to one of the complaints that I had in Springfield Estates. I had request to have the property looked at, and what I understand, the bylaw officer went out and had a look, and then I questioned whether or not I got back to the resident that made the complaint, and I was told no, so I had asked her if she could do that. So I presume she did that, but I wasn't involved in the communication. What I'd like to see is that if it does go back to the resident that makes a complaint, there's a carbon copy sent to the counselor as well, so we know that thing has been addressed. Thank you.
Councilor Turner, Councilor Lloyd.
Basically the same as Larry, I have no problem with contacting the client. In fact, I would appreciate doing that. And but again, I think the council would have to know to contact him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's great too. I think the more communication we have, the better. My two concerns are, does our bylaw officer have enough time to contact everybody that makes a complaint? And if so, how can we standardize that to make that a streamlined process? So sometimes it's easier just to pick up the phone and talk to a resident, and sometimes it's probably better to include, we're speaking here tonight about including the counselor in that, because sometimes we don't know what's going on until, it's either it comes here on council or, we end up, speaking to a resident. Sometimes we don't know right off the bat, so it's great to have that communication. I would just think it should be something streamlined, so it makes not only easy and efficient on our bylaw officer, but it also keeps everything efficient on our end as well. That would be my concern.
Okay. Brian, do you have something to add?
Yeah, we can certainly develop the process of doing that, subject to, there are limits to what we can say, because it is an enforcement file. So there are certain things that we would just not be at liberty to say, especially if we're heading towards orders and things of that nature, until they're at that point, right? Because we would not disclose on the other side, if the complainant comes to us and says who has complained, we don't disclose that. So there are limits to what we can disclose. So, but we can certainly ensure the communication part is there, but what gets released will be tempered.
I think it's just a matter of that people's concerns are heard. People want to know that they're concerned that they went and looked at it. They don't. I don't think we need to get into juicy details. I would agree, because it's not good practice. But I think that's what I mean. It should be something very standard that this concern was addressed. It was looked at. Acknowledgements happen, but I think people want to be heard and make sure that their concerns are being moved forward. So thank you.
Okay. Logan, is that good enough for you, or?
That's excellent. Yeah, thank you. We'll work on a process, and yeah, definitely very happy to have ongoing discussions and open communication with the public within those restrictions that Brian mentioned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is truck traffic on secondary roads. Warden Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, I tried to get this one put on last meeting, but we ran into some technical difficulties. So I sent the picture out again today. Hopefully everybody received it of the sign that's one posted each way on Highway 4, the former Trans Canada. Before you get to Highway 376, it might be confused with directions on the numbers. It's right at West River Fire Hall. So you turn down Route 276. And Route 276 goes right from the fire hall to the Pickle Rotary in here. And it's a heavily traveled route for sure. And it's also a blue route. When they put the pavement in, repaved it, they made it wide enough for cyclists and walkers for that. So therefore, you get an extra load of cyclists especially on it, because it is a blue route, and but there are a lot of walkers on it as well. So the problem came up a number of years ago. This sign went up in 2003. It was MLA designed to put it through. And the main thing that was happening was an awful lot of trucks from VEI were using that, going from Mount Tom, where the state is where all the rail was coming from. They were using that as a street through. And it was bothering a lot of people because sometimes you'd have 4 or 5 trucks in a row. And if you were a young person just learning to drive the bike, I think you're in trouble if you get more than one of those going by at the same time. So the problem seemed to go away. It came back about 3 or 4 years ago. I heard the Rcmp there and then, and they did crack down some and they got looked after. But this year it started happening really bad, where I timed them one day, there was a truck every 2 minutes going one way or the other, these belly dump trail trucks. And a great danger to anybody walking or cycling on the road. Back one day, one of them was coming around the corner from the number 4 to 306 and tipped the whole load right there in the corner. If anybody's been walking in that vicinity, it wouldn't be around today. So I again approached the Rcmp about it, and I didn't get much satisfaction. It just seemed to get delayed, and eventually they said, no, it belongs to the compliance people. Not us, it's the compliance people that have to enforce those rules. So that went on for a while, and I wasn't getting anywhere there. They said, no, it's the Department of PIR at that time, Public Works now, it's up to them, not us. And so I had to talk to Rick Chisholm and some other people, but nobody was going to do anything about it. And it turned out that in the end, because it says accept local delivery on there, unless you're going end to end, that doesn't apply. So anybody driving on there and sees that sign, a truck, it only applies if you're going all the way from one end of 376 all the way to the other end. So they found a shortcut around that this year. The trucks come down to Durham and then go up over the Durham Hills, right through the village of Scottsburn, up over Meadville, off the hill, to get to where they're going, which is somewhere at Tony Riverway. But that's putting those big trucks on a lot of, smaller, narrower roads. Up through, I got calls from Meadville and Popple Hillway about how come these trucks are going through here. And I was always of the understanding if there was a safe way to go, which there is, when you go out downtown at the exit 19, they can get on the TransCanada and go right through and follow the 106 through the Victor River. And then they follow up the trail. That's still putting them on the trail too, on one road, but right now we're putting them on, 4 or 5 different roads. So at the end of it, I was told that not the government, it's not anybody else that makes up the rules here. It's the private companies when they're putting in the contract. They draw up the route that they're going to follow. And obviously, to try and save money, to get their quote as low as they can, they're going to take the shortest route they can. If you're flying for, and save SAG, it's also mentioned in the save taxpayer money, which it does. If you have to travel a wider route, that's going to cost a little more money for sure. But what value then do we put on safety? Or is it all just to get it done at the lowest cost possible? That's what bothers me, is there didn't seem to be any value on the safety of the people on those roads. If there was another way to go, and I was accused of being against big trucks. I'm not against big trucks because we have big trucks on that road all the time. From the Hill and Scottsburn on along the Lumber Road, they don't have any other road to go. And so I don't, I dispute the fact that I'm against big trucks. The road is there to take big trucks, but not. The other problem with these belly dump gravel trucks on that road or on any road is they got to get as many loads in a day as they can to make a living. So I wouldn't say they're speeding, but they're certainly pushing to try and get as many loads in as they can. And so there's a difference I notice in the driving habits of those trucks versus the log and lumber trucks that you know, they're doing their job every day, but they're not getting paid by the load type of thing. I just see if I get one more load in. But anyway, it's a problem mostly on safety, and I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter to the Minister of Public Works and copy it to Mr. Chisholm and to our MLAs, or to rural MLAs, that consideration be given to safety when they're drawing up the routes for these gravel trucks for, it's mostly for Mr. Highway work. When they're drawing up the routes for these trucks, that safety be considered and not just the bottom line, and that the government have a say in where these trucks, the path of the road that these trucks are following, and not to say that it's all on the companies. I'd look for a seconder for that motion.
It's moved and seconded. Further questions? Seeing none. I have something to say, but I'm going to step down. Councilor Bowles, and you can take chair.
That's all right.
I work for the provincial government, and construction is one of the things that we trucks. We deal with the contractors and things like that. And there's a reason why contractor puts in the shortest distance to the job, and that's to get the job, right? Because there's a lot of strategic planning goes into it. If you have pits here and pits here and the job's over here, what's the shortest way? Because the bulk of your cost, estimate cost, is getting the material to the job. The cheaper you can do that, the better price you'll get, and the better price the taxpayer will get. So that's why that's there. I live in a community or district where there's 4 pits, 3 bariatric, okay? And during the time of the twinning, we had 500 trucks going through the village of Thorburn every day. Every day, village going through. Now, Route 376 is quite wide and capable of handling those loads. It's a Schedule C road. You can haul year round on it. So it's able to handle those types of loads. So I don't know why back in 2003 that the government, it was political, no doubt, because, you know, of making that as local traffic only. And I think the thing that you're talking about, Gordon, was it for only a couple of weeks that these trucks were traveling on your road?
This past summer, no, it was for 8-10 weeks. It was a bit of a break. Everybody thought they'd stop, and then they started up it. But they did not just travel on 376 to avoid, you know, that rule. They went on all these other roads that weren't capable of handling that big way.
Oh, no, those roads are capable of handling those. Those roads, they wouldn't be allowed to be on those roads. But we did the McKean Road up there, we gravelled it, and there was 10 or 15 days of a lot of truck traffic, and that's the route that they took, because some trucks took that route so that they could haul their maximum weights, right? So they didn't go the other route because they had to haul a lighter weight, right? So they use that route, but, you know, to be fair to the contractor, they're bidding that job, and somebody else got a pit that it was further away, but we're making the pit that's closest, making them go even further than the other. You're putting them at an unfair advantage during the tender process. So to me, you know, a road to road, once the truck is hauling legal weight and they're traveling the speed, that's enforcement by the Rcmp. If they're hauling overweight, which they shouldn't be because it's weighed by a highway weigher, so they're supposed to be hauling legal loads, then every road should be open to the truckers, because we just can't start picking and choosing what roads trucks can travel on. Because they're traveling through on my road. It's unfair. You're saying we should go down up to the trunk 6. Well, you're putting in a trunk 6 on a heavy travel road too. So we want pavement, we want gravel roads and all that, and it is an inconvenience when you get these paving jobs and things like that. But I'm sure Council wanted me happy to see the Little Harbor Road paved this coming summer, and Sweets have got that stuff. I just can't support it because it's, to me, I think that road should be opened up to all traffic. Those PI trucks, and that's the reason I think behind it was there's 4 PI trucks probably there first thing in the morning, trying to get there and trying to get back to the boat and they're, but those same PI trucks I pass every morning this year fall, going to the stop expecting pit in the falls from on the way to work, 8:10. I pass them, there's 4 trucks that are heading, they're PI trucks. They're heading back, so. To me, I can't support it because, for one thing, talk about global warming. You start adding, making your trucks go longer, burn more fuel, things like that, that adds to everything, right? So, you want to have good roads, you want to keep the costs down and everything to the taxpayer, then we have to open the roads to everybody. It's an inconvenience, I know that, but I know I deal with the complaints all summer long, people hauling trucks on the road and things like that. But it's a necessity if you want to get the work done. Thank you.
I appreciate Councilor Powers, he's in a position where he knows how this works with the companies and the roads and what have, but I'm not talking about the inconvenience of it. I'm talking about the safety factor. And I realize that we can't get roads paved and not travel on the roads, on some roads. And if they were doing work on the main road, then that makes sense to go that way because that's there isn't an alternative. Whereas if you're going out Tony River, there is an alternative. They can travel 3/4 of the way on 104 and 106. Roads that are wide, there's very few bikers or walkers on those roads. Whereas on the 376 in particular, because of the Blue Road, there's a lot of bikers on it, but there's also a lot of walkers, as there are on a lot of the roads. So it used to be when these signs first went up, that the trucks were to travel on those 100 series roads as much as possible, depending on where they were heading to. Obviously, if they're heading to someplace that they would have to travel back the other way, it doesn't make sense. And when they're paving out the trail somewhere, it doesn't make sense that they're traveling on that road when we have 100 series. Yes, it's more wide and a little more on the cost, but weigh the safety is what I'm trying to think. Weigh the safety factor. You can't just say whatever's the best cost value, we're going with it. Regardless of safety. We make companies all the time do all kinds of things that cost a lot of money for safety reasons only. These companies that are constructing buildings and stuff have to put a lot of safety things up, that cost a lot of money, but the rules are made for safety. I don't agree with the idea that every road should be open to every truck, regardless, as long as they take the weight. Because you're not allowing anything for the safety factor. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. My name? Nay.
Nay.
Ayes, put your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Larry's. Larry, you a yes or no?
I'm a no.
No. Okay, so 8-4, is it?
4 nays.
4 nays.
4 nays.
I was nay.
Wasn't it?
Okay, motion carried. Next is District 5 street light request. Yeah, their deputy ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A request from resident Florence Brook on Highway 376, there's street lights through there now, and one that is close proximity to this driveway is not much good, so we asked Karen went through the procedure of trying to get it moved, and if it's cheaper, put it in light and trying to in places good. This will serve all 5 driveways, so I so move that we install a street light on Highway 376. And civic number 2172 and 2174 both share the same driveways. That's why there's 2 civic numbers here. Okay.
I'll second it.
Move second. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Outline nay, motion carried. Next is Conley Drive flooding. Councillor Trent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sent photographs to all the councilors today, along with my request. So the issue is that we have really 3 jurisdictions involved here. The McLeod House, just to make everyone aware, is right down at the bottom of Angel Street. And Angel Street is the street as you come in past the drive and you turn right up into Westfall. That's Angel Street. And what happens is that the water comes down Angel Street, and it should be apparent in all your photographs that you have. And it flows directly across the road into this, the family's name is McLeod, into the McLeod's yard. So second jurisdiction that's involved is the province, is because there's ditching that comes down from the drive-in past where Sullivan Fuels put in the card lock depot there. And the McLeods don't feel that infrastructure is sufficient enough to carry the water. So we have the town of Westville and we have the province that are responsible for the infrastructure there to take the water away, and it's not doing its job. So I talked to Mayor White in Westville, and he's expecting a letter from us that asking him and his council and also the province to look at an engineered solution to stop that water coming down Angel Street and diverting it somewhere else, because it's going right into their yard, into their house, into their garage, and it happens very frequently. So anyway, that's what I'm requesting, is that we can send a letter to the town of Westville and to Public Works and carbon copy the MLA, who is Carla McFarland, asking for an engineered solution to that flooding problem on Conley Drive. And I make that a motion.
I'll second that. It's moved and seconded. Any questions? Seeing none? I had one question earlier. Is there any drainage on Angel Drive?
Pardon me?
Is there any drainage there? Or is there any curbs and things like that? Or?
Curbs, yeah, it runs right down. I think there's catch basins along there, but it's not sufficient to take all that water down. So it just runs down right the middle of the street. So right across the road.
In the county, that it has to be approved drainage systems and everything like that. I don't think that one, by the looks of things, has any drainage there at all. It's all, it looks like it's all curves, and it looks like there's no ditches or anything. It's all.
No, there's no ditches. No, there's no ditches.
I think that was the problem when they designed that subdivision. Anyway. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carried. Next is the draft report plan and schedule for climate change action plan. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Logan for the brief summary that he did up. It was circulated to the Climate Change Advisory Committee related to the action items from 2015 Municipal Climate Change Action Plan, and it consists of 13 points. Did the rest of the councillors get that, or was it just the advisory?
It was in the,
I went through the whole package, and I didn't,
it was.
or was it separate?
It's just a Gantt chart.
Oh, it's in a chart, okay. So I just quickly went through it again. So I'm sure everybody had a chance to look at it, and I feel the action plan will be a good topic for discussion at our planning session meeting. And if I could get Logan to just talk a little bit about it like he did for me, so that I was more familiar with it. Are you there, Logan?
Yes, thanks, Mary. Yeah, no, we, yeah, like Mary mentioned, we chatted about it today a little bit. I think the plan makes a lot of sense. It makes sense to talk about it at a planning meeting because there are aggressive timelines identified in those. Of the various points that I came down on with relation to our 2015 action plan, we have made progress on some additional ones we need to continue to make progress on. Some asks have been made from the advisory committee with regards to staffing capacity to handle and implement these items, as well as to follow up on them once the action plan has been put together. So it's probably there's probably merit to having some discussion at some point about how we find staff resources to address those items and implement the plan once it has been put in place. Those staffing resources could extend right from the climate change action plan items, which are the sort of the key deliverables out of the committee, all the way to like some municipalities have, what do they call them? Environmental compliance officers and people like that. So it's probably just worth some additional discussion around how we provide staff resources to both come up with the plan, then enforce the plan, and see what else we can incorporate from an environmental perspective, such as compliance-related items that do bog down our staff at different times. So, Mary, is that sort of the summary that you were looking for? I believe that's what we talked about today. Is there anything else that I missed, or?
That was perfect. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have to approve this bond, or is it just for information?
Disappointed, I think it's just for information.
Okay. Anything else? Councillor Adam? No. Okay, we'll move on. Garbage collection issue. Peter Bullock. Councillor Bullock.
Yes. We're having different people in the county and in my district are having problems with garbage collection. The truck driver has the say if they go up the road or not. So truck driver turns around, looks at the first part of the road, says, no, I'm not going up that. They don't get garbage collection that day. 2 weeks later, garbage collection, they don't like the looks of the road, they don't go up it. So they don't get garbage collection. They might go another week, get garbage collection. Then the next 2 weeks, or 2 weeks, and another 2 weeks, they don't get it again. Now, we're asking our residents to use the green bins. And a lot of them put kitty litter and other stuff in it that stuff that's not very older friendly, and to comply with us and to help us in our garbage ritual, trying to keep our province clean and healthy. And they ask for recycling and put the garbage out and it's sorted and everything. Well, it's pretty tiresome. These people go around, take their garbage out, take their green bins out, put them there. Nobody picks them up. Take them all back in. Then turn around in the next 2 weeks, take them all back out. Nobody picks them up. I mean, they're paying for this garbage pickup as taxpayers as well as the rest of us are. And, you know, I don't think it's right that they were told that, well, if you want to put the green bin and the garbage on the truck and take it over to the dump here, then, you know, feel free to do it. But that's not their job. And where are they going to get the vehicles to do this, you know? I know that Paul's really good. He'll go out, he'll go down and get this stuff and everything, but he seems to be being overruled and they don't want to do that. So I think that I asked Carolyn when I put this on the agenda, if Earl could be here, because I think it's something that has to be addressed and why this is happening and what we can do about it, because people shouldn't be treated like that. I mean, if there's a problem with the road, then maybe we should be going after the MLAs and them and get them to fix that road and make sure that she's sanded and that stuff when garbage station comes. But I don't know if the rest of us are having problems with the garbage pickup, but I know District 9, yeah, we're having some problems with different places.
Okay. Anybody else? Ward Member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At one time, back a few years ago, I had a problem with one trailer park that constantly got, you know, they look at it and say, no, I don't think so. And, but it wasn't always for a good reason. I would get calls on the residents saying, all of us are driving up, down, no problem, big wide roads in that trailer park. But, so I got a hold of Earl and, in some cases, the truck came right back that day, just drove right up around and everything. So it wasn't the case. I don't think it's similar to what Peter's talking about, but that was the only time I got the calls on wintertime garbage collection. But I did talk to Earl Cameron about this issue. I talked to Peter about it, and he places the blame squarely on Department of Public Works. He says those roads are not. The trucks are not going to go up and down. The big trucks are not going to go up and down unless those, unless it's something that they don't have to risk having to tow the truck out or whatever. So, you know, the blame may not all be with the collection company. If they get down one of those roads and can't get turned around, if it goes up with background stuff, and they can't get around, then they end up paying the tow bill to get out there. I think sometimes they have to look at where the real problem is, but they went, the collection companies themselves, I understand, send somebody in to some of these roads with a half-ton truck to pick up stuff, but they couldn't pick up the green bins. But the half-ton truck is the green bins, Council Boyle said, city litter and everything else in them are too heavy for anybody to lift those up onto the other big trucks have a lift on them. So they did go out of their way in some roads anyway to pick up, you know, at least the garbage and the recycling. That obviously can't be the case in them all, or Council Boyle's the same, but I think sometimes we need to look at, are those roads, you know, being properly cleared for those big trucks to go on. I know the Department of Public Works can't send out trucks to particular roads on whatever garbage collection is scheduled, they can't run their schedule on that. So there's a lot more to this problem, I think, than the company just not wanting to go on those roads. Sometimes we need to look for the root of why they're not going on those roads. And in some cases, it may not be roads they're getting into that might have to do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Council Boyle.
Yeah, I understand what, excuse me, I understand what the word is saying here in one sense, but another one I don't. What I'd like to see that is if they're saying, okay, no, we're not going on that road because it's not sanded, it's not this, it's not that. Where's the ticket number that they reported that road? That road's not suited to go on. The people have some real concerns, and it's concerns that have to be addressed. The garbage is bad enough, but if you can't take a garbage truck up there, how are you going to get an ambulance or a fire truck or something if they need it up there? I mean, for some reason, they've been cheap at the salt this year, or the sand, or whichever it may be. And I know my own road, it's been sanded at Christmas time. It's the only time I think that they ever sanded it. And, so it's to say they should be, the garbage collectors should be around, okay, if they don't want to go up the road, they should have a reason why they're not going up that road. And they should turn around and call in and give it a ticket number. And then also, Earl's in the position where he can call the MLAs and turn around and say, okay, listen, we've got this road, this road, this road, this is not right. When the garbage collection is, why can't you make sure that there's, that these roads are sanded for that day or whatever, to me, I think it's very disrespectful in the first place to say to somebody, well, you take your truck and you take it up and take it over here and we look after it. Something has to be done, and I really think that we have to get Earl in here and find out what he can do about it and what the problem is.
Right.
The reality is Pictou County Solid Waste cannot compel the contractor to do it. If the contractor raises it as a safety issue, that's the end of the discussion. Their contract does not allow them to force a contractor to go on a road that they are deeming unsafe. So that's the reality of it. They are looking at strategies for the next contract on how to potentially address this issue. One of the strategies they're looking at is going to a 4-day collection week. Right now we have a 5-day collection week. So give an extra day if there's a day due to inclement weather that they can't service a particular road, gives them a day that they can go back. But under the current situation, they cannot compel the contractor to do it.
When's the collection day for you, for those residents?
Those residents there?
Yeah.
It was every second Thursday.
No, my garbage was, since the new year, hasn't been picked up for 2 Fridays, and we had storms in those days. Both days were really bad, and they canceled. I think they canceled the service actually. My garbage usually gets picked up in the afternoon, and along with the recycling and all that, and they never got picked up for 2 Fridays since January anyway. So it was related to weather, those issues, those times, so we like it, so. And that's on Friday, so on Friday.
But it's very puzzling and it's very concerning that, Brian just said there, and I want to call the MLA office tomorrow and around town. So these roads are not safe to go on. And they're saying they're not safe. And again, so they can't get an ambulance now, they can't get a fire truck, they can't get anything up there because the road is unsafe. Then there's got to be something done about it. And the MLA, that's his job. We talked about the other night that that's their baby. They're supposed to be looking after this. So I think they better get off their ass to do something, because these people do not have to live with that. It just seems like there's one law for certain people in the county, another for another person, and others, get everything. And I don't think that is right. I think we all should be treated equal. I think if there's a problem, and the roads are a problem, then darn well let's start getting them fixed and get the MLA off his ass and turn around and say, okay, we're gonna get something done here and get them fixed proper so that there's that this kind of thing doesn't happen. And then when it's garbage day, then we sand them. Or if it's ice on them roads, I don't care what day it is, get sand on them, because there's older people living on that road. So if somebody has a heart attack or falls and hits their head or something, you need an ambulance right away. You turn around, you can't wait. Well, yeah, we'll send a truck up now to sand it. But that should never be. They should be done so that they can get in there. And I mean, it's really bothersome to me. And I will, on my own, I will go after the MLA department and say, hey, you know, what's going on here, what's, you know, there's gotta be something down, thank you.
Okay. Further? Land voucher program policy amendment. So what?
Mr. Chair, yeah, this issue came up to, this is the second time this issue came up to me, actually in the same way. She has vouchers and she can't use them because they're outside the time frames for, what we're given date for in November. And her concern is, why do we have these dates on them? So I did have a talk with Carol about this. And I did try to explain to her that there's an extra workload on our landfill sites, that they have to hire summer student during the summers to look after the administration of the program. And also another workload for their own administration here. And we have a policy, and it gives the dates for the policy for the vouchers being made. But she asked me why we couldn't change that. So I really struggled with trying to come up with something that I can support as well. I guess why can't we change the dates? Is there a way to change those dates? I guess is what I'm looking at. I guess I want to bring it to council to see what the feeling was, if anyone's getting complaints on that. Check with Brian, is there a way we can change those dates, or what repercussions would be having it from year one onwards or issue in May?
Well, the real issue is capacity of the landfill to, we extended it an additional month to the end of November. They do not have, their seasonal staff are really gone at that point. So that is a bit of I guess a bottleneck on that side of it. Was originally put in to be a kind of a replacement of the spring and fall cleanups that were offered, right? And the program is not free. It does cost us about $150,000 a year to run. So extending it, making it longer, that cost is just going to go up. I think it did go up when we extended it that additional month. It went up about, I think it was probably 20,000, 25,000. I think by extending it from October to the end of November, I think so. So a lot of it has to do with the capacity and really what the original intent of it was. It is administratively cumbersome here, bringing them, and on the other side, at the landfill. I'm not sure Pictou County Solid Waste have the capacity on the staffing side to handle it.
It wasn't a year-round program, it was spring and fall cleanups mostly. So.
No, I explained that to her. I'll explain about the staffing problems. It's just when she asked me about the changing the date, I didn't really feel I had a strong enough answer to give her, but I'll bring it back to council for her and just try to see if anyone else was having that problem. I agree with Brian. I think it's a deliberate program, and we have extended to the end of November. But I just wanted to make sure I was giving the right answer back to the customer, because like she said, she's already gotten the budgets in her hand. She has to throw them away. So I don't know if that's a cost of getting to the county as well. No, I took that one and costs anything. Very little. You have the vouchers and then just they're updated.
Yeah, the bill or the cost is the tipping fee at the landfill, which is included in the overall. And internally, I mean, there are costs to produce them. Paper, it's actually a specialty paper. Don't photocopy them. You'll find out what this specialty is. That's pretty big. So they are somewhat. The program does have some abuses, to put it mildly, I think. So that's one of the things that time frame does kind of help a little bit with. If you were to open it up beyond, I think we would see our costs go up exponentially. We by controlling it to the 6-month period, we actually control some of the abuse and I guess it's the black market around them type thing, so.
Or, next.
I think he was ahead of me.
No, I seen you first.
All right,
Seen you.
okay. One buddy on the council do I haven't had any complaints from anybody in my area. In fact, they were pretty happy when it got extended to the end of November because a lot of people are, doing roofing jobs and different things that last, once the end of November comes, if you're still playing with that stuff, then you're in trouble anyway. But, no, I think it's pretty well accepted the way it is, and, I think, we have made modifications by moving it in November, and also when we broke it into 4 pieces instead of 2, but that helped a lot of people because they were going in with a couple hundred pounds and you would have a voucher for 1,000 or whatever, so, that helped quite a few people. I think it's a good system we've got, and, it's for what used to be spring or fall cleanups, and so there's lots of time there to do it in, I think, and following up on what our CAO said, it's very much a black market. Because if you have those vouchers, there's people who want them, the municipalities that will pay for them. They're worth a fair amount of money if you're doing your commercial or if you're doing a big cleanup, I don't want to advertise it, but, there's that game has been played for a long time, but we did by limiting the number you could turn in one time and whatnot, and by having the cutoff date help that some, so I don't think we want to toy around with it. It's working pretty good. We can keep it that way. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Dorr.
Gordon pretty well mentioned what I was going to. You always get somebody who wants to have it all year round, and they kind of understand when we explain what takes place. But what I found this year at the rate figures meeting, I brought it up, and I've seen a few people says that they're very pleased with the being able to break the dam. Instead of 2 trips, you could have 4 trips, and that was just the good news about it. But there's always somebody, and then there's always those people that take advantage of rural parts of Victor County and old roads and logging roads, and it doesn't matter what they do. I can donate the truck and give them a coupon, people in the village or in the community that I know that haven't got too much, and they take the shingles to the dock. But you get some people from town that come to the country and dump the shingles in your woods. That makes for a lot of work for girls, crews to kind of clean it up. But anyway, we're not going to get on to that, but I do like the 4 slips instead of the 2, and people in my area working to that. Thank you.
Councilor Bowles.
Yeah, it pretty well has been said here, and my concern is that, the 4 250 vouchers just, almost nothing's happening to that because everybody seems to like them, and I think it's the way to go. So that's what my concern. Thank you.
Okay. And that's what.
Yeah, I agree with that, what everyone's saying here, Jay. It's just that I wasn't comfortable. She asked me about the policy. They took a list to change it. I wasn't talking with the service giver, so I have more information now, so I'll certainly get back.
Very good. Okay, next on the agenda is 2-acre sidewalk update. Brian, is that you?
It'll be myself and I think Logan. Just by, I guess, way of an overall update, we've been working through the MLA office for that area, which would be the Premier's office or constituency office, trying to assess the overall project and connecting with the department, because certainly the message that was delivered to us back 2 or 3 years ago on what would be expected from us from a design standpoint. Certainly in the last, I would say, month, we're getting a different message coming back. So we've we've requested a meeting of all the kind of stakeholders, that put the design options on the table, because now basically a bridge, which was a requirement a few years ago, not be a requirement today. So we're getting some different messaging coming through the department. So we want to make sure everybody's on the same page as well. We're looking at some of the options for potentially finding funding programs for this through various funds. So we're working that angle as well, continuing to really bring the scope of the project and hopefully the net cost, if we get to a point of or getting to a construction decision, to a reasonable position for the county. I believe Logan, he can speak to, I guess, conversations that he's had with the CBCL kind of around design options, and certainly the costs that we had from CBCL, the 66,000 included design work for a significant amount of that design work was for a bridge. So if we're simply designing a traditional sidewalk, that cost would be significantly less. And Logan's also had some discussions with them around the notion of whether a pedestrian study is possible and what that might look like in terms of costs.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks for the intro and everything. And yeah, so we, I guess with regards to the first item, so at the end of the day, we're talking about the possibility of removing the bridge from the project as an idea, and looking at what cost savings would be had with that, with the understanding that when just as a point of clarification, with the understanding that at the point that the Department of Public Works looks to replace that bridge, they would include pedestrian access. So we don't have a hard number, but we could get that, I'm sure, from CBCL. But based on the proposal that they provided us, the successful proposal, the original proposal for their design work, estimates are just below $30,000 for reduction from that 66, including the removal of that bridge. So significant savings to the tune of, nearly 50% of the overall project cost if the bridge is removed from the project design portion altogether at this point. So that's the first thing. We're talking about saving approximately $30,000, just under $30,000 with that. We did also, like Brian mentioned, we got, per council's direction, we got the cost estimates for the pedestrian counts. CBCL did recommend completing those counts after the snow melt, when that area is free and clear. So, in all likelihood, sometime in April at the earliest, and possibly into May. They have a range of costs depending on what we want overall. The range is from $5,000 to $8,000, depending on how, complete or to what extent we want to do the analysis. The $5,000 would be just to do pedestrian traffic counts on either side of the highway. It goes up to about 6,500 if we do pedestrian counts on either side, including one going up McClellan's Brook Road and one towards East River East Side Road, because the intersection, there's a slight, separation between them, and all the way up to 8,000, which would include some vehicular travel counts, which can also be helpful in these types of analyses. So at the end of the day, we're between $5,000 and $8,000 for the pedestrian study. And like I mentioned before, we're possibly up to about $30,000 in savings in the design costs if we remove the structural and geotechnical components which have been identified in the CPCL proposal. So I guess invite any questions. I don't know if that outlines things well enough for everybody, but interested to hear what people think.
Okay, thank you, Logan. Is there any questions? Councilor Wolf.
Just wondering, I think at the time we were talking about cities doing that stuff, we're also looking at maybe the Municipal Road there with the wellness center. Is there anything being done there? Or?
Yeah, we would be following a similar approach. We decided to not complicate this specific project by looking at that one right now. But the ultimate pedestrian count work would be very similar. We did discuss it with CBCL at length, and we did ask them if it was council's direction, if we would like to get a proposal from them for the traffic count, the pedestrian traffic counts rather for Westville Road as well. So that's something that we could get relatively quickly and can certainly be done. But we wanted to make sure to separate them out just for the sake of simplification of the two projects. We believe that they should be approached as two separate projects altogether.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, it's Larry.
Councilor Turner.
Mr. Chair. Your information on that. It's nice to know that doing some investigation into this. Just to follow up on Councilor Boyle's point, Westville Road is in my district and been trying to find some type of solution in there for years, as long as I've been on council. So once we get the Blue Acres study done, I'd like to propose that we go ahead and we do the study in terms of vehicular count and pedestrian count on Westville Road. One other thing that I'd like to see at least happen is when there's a snowstorm on Westville Road and they plow when they plow the snow is banked up against the abutments and there's simply nowhere to walk then. And I'm just wondering if we could have Public Works remove that snow from underneath those underpasses. So that's something that I'd like to have considered as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it's funny. Not sure. It was funny. The day after we had our meeting, I had an appointment at Subaru and dropped off my car and decided to walk over to the little mini Costco over there. And it was it wasn't the middle of the night, but it was after dark. And I was thinking about how ironic it would be if I was hit by a car, the Director of Public Works and Development, immediately after our meeting.
You're lucky I didn't come by.
But I was not, so anyway, we can look into that certainly. Yeah.
Deputy Warden. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My take in this is that the design is certainly 30,000 dropped halfway. And I don't know why we would go spend an extra $8,000 for a count that we couldn't know much about. I don't think it's going to give a full count because there's no sidewalk there now. It's going to be a new construction, so I don't think that if much we need out of the count for 30,000. So I don't think we should go that route. So the for the design, get a price of what it's going to cost us. Up less now. So I think. Okay.
Anybody else? Warden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I tend to agree with the Deputy Warden that we have the price down now to 30,000. You know, the problem all along is the parking price is partly who's going to help us pay for it, to make it safe. And so we have some pretty good chances, I think, at getting some federal funding here to help us as well. and the efficiency officer, the police office, has certainly been very good to try and work with us, to try and get some of that federal money. There are programs there, under something like active living or whatever, that perhaps can help us some there, you know, the runners, people that right and whatnot, so the effort is to try and get the price to a point where it can be done. And if we have the price of the design now down a lot, then perhaps the thing is not to spend a lot of extra money right now on account. We give the $30,000 for the design, and then perhaps that'll help us get working with the police constituency office and the federal government to get some more money for it. I would agree with every word.
Yeah. Councilor Dave Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of my objectives all along was to get this cost into a reasonable zone. And the province, by saying, what about the bridge? You're probably more aware than I am of rumors that bridge will be replaced in the too distant future. That will allow it to be, and that's their contribution. I can understand that. Okay. The reason I asked for a survey, and I really believe that the people who benefit should be the ones paying. We know who benefits here, largely. They've been asked whether they will see fit to be morally upstanding and contribute. It remains to be seen. I'm not opposed to building a sidewalk, never have. I never for a minute, but it was safe. I said many times, many years ago. Put up signs, no pedestrian permitted. Okay, it's a inherently hazardous path to walk through there. Not just in January, but any time of the year. So if we can get the cost down to a reasonable level, maybe get some federal dollars, but I don't think some tentative federal dollars. Just building a sidewalk. I can live with that. Okay, so I'm going to build a sidewalk and a whole lot of other infrastructure with it. I can't live with that. Taxpayers in Allotment should not have to pay for fancy infrastructure in the urban core. It's basic infrastructure, I can support. Yep.
Yes. Councilor Thompson.
That's not in the urban core, that's in the suburban core. It's in that sidewalks in the community of Plymouth. It will connect our community. I believe there's reasonable people at both the federal and the provincial level now with influence. I've talked to both our MP and our MLA, and there's solutions here to make this work. I think that we should get a firm number from CBCL with the reduction. I agree. I believe I heard a deputy warden saying that a pedestrian count's not necessary. It was a little muffled, but I don't think we need to do a pedestrian count. They're walking through there every day, and people don't do that. They're not just doing it for exercise. People use this to get to jobs. They walk there to get to services, and I want to make a recommendation that we get a firm price on the reduction without the bridge design component, and have it ready for our next council meeting to approve. I think we've punted this one down the road too many times. We, as the CAO mentioned, there are funding programs available for us, but the first question the funders are going to say is, well, do you have a design? And right now, we don't have a design. We have, we know there's a problem there. It's an issue that, one of the, on my 13 years on council, this issue has sort of sparked a lot of people who've come up to me and started talking about this in the last month since we had our last council session on this. It just needs to happen. We need to start moving on this stuff. We spent $438,000 a couple years ago building sidewalks in Riverton, Elma, and over by the Wellness Center, and we didn't debate it as much as we debated this. It's time to move on. And so I make it a motion that we recommend to council to get a firm number for the next council meeting and award this design contract for the sidewalks. I make that a motion.
Councilor McKeel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is for Brian, through you. When is this meeting planned? I guess my concern bringing it to the next council meeting is that meeting going to happen with everybody at the table so that we can understand, I mean, so that you spoke about having that meeting.
Yes, I'm not sure that lines up. The request is made, but before we go to awarding a design contract, I do believe we need clear concurrence from the province that says this is what you're going to design, right? It is just the sidewalk, right? Like we're being told anecdotally that person in the department saying, well, I don't understand why they're even talking about a bridge. That's our infrastructure. Well, let's get that person in the room and get that in writing that that is in fact the case, right? It's, we're being told, other people in the department are saying, well, we'll approve a sidewalk design. Why wouldn't we approve a sidewalk design? We go back 3 years ago, the constraints that were on that sidewalk design were you got to deal with provincial infrastructure, roads, and egress into things like that, right? So we need to ensure that what we're being told today will carry through our design, right? So I think it's probably okay. The other thing is that this actually, if we get the number down below the 50,000, it doesn't actually require council approval under our procurement policy. It exceeded 50,000, so that's why it came to council. Under 50,000 can be approved if the budget is there, can be approved by this up, right? And the budget is there. But I do think it's imperative we have that lined up before we award a contract for design. That we have the ground rules on what we're actually designing confirmed by the province.
I guess that was my little concern. It's not that I didn't want to have it at next council meeting, was that would it be ready in 2 weeks to have that conversation and make those decisions?
It may not be.
It may not be.
Because we're relying on other people and schedules, so.
And did I understand correctly that decision doesn't even need to be done in council? If you can do it through administration?
Yeah, it's now below threshold amounts, so it doesn't require council approval. It would be within our procurement policy. But where it was 66,000, the limit is 50,000 for staff, right? So that exceeded that, so that's why we required council approval.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Wolf.
I just, Brian, quick, Chair, just, I just don't know, so, you know, it's confusing to me, these motions and everything, Todd, it's like, when the motion was made for study and stuff like that and passed. Now we turn around or the motion hit the floor, turn around and saying that we go for the study. I'm just wondering, how does that work? I mean, I don't understand it.
So the motion that was made back in, whatever month it was made in January, was to conduct a study. So our direction was to do that or get the information. So we're bringing that information back here to council. Say, as Logan indicated, the cost is between $4,000 to $8,000 to do it. And I think since that original decision was made back in January, there's been, I think, changes just based on what we're being told by the province. There's changes to the scope and the project that a bridge may not be required. It's a simple sidewalk design build type thing. So, so we're in essence just bringing that back to council to say this is where we're at today. Ultimately, council can rescind or change direction, right? Whether or not you want to do that study. So.
Yeah, that's just what I'm, you know, to whatever happens again, I understand maybe next time the mean term down in the vote where something is sort of tabled or want to start or something. But as long as you can come back and have, you know, something that it can be changed at another meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
The direction could change from the study, like council can change or its direction by way of motion and recommendation.
Councilor Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, this is just housekeeping that I'm asking about. So at that meeting or the next meeting or prior to that meeting, we're not taking something, did we have to get that? Is there a certain amount of time that we have to do? Or how we can fix that up? Because it was tabled that it was going to be talked about in September. Well, this is February, and I have no problem with it. You're going to get extra money, but is there something there that we have to do to make it right? That other motion that night?
So it was basically to conduct the motion was tabled, I believe, to conduct a study or an assessment of the area. So that's what we've priced. We've gone back and priced that with CBCL.
That's fixed up.
So we know that. So now it's, do we, and I think other things have changed in the project scope as well. So that's new information that's provided. So ultimately, I'm not sure it would have taken us to September to actually complete the study. I think Logan indicated, CBCL basically indicated that they would recommend that we would do the study once the snow melt is gone. So
there's no length of time. Table or something, certain amount of days or something.
Oh, it was basically, it was table pending action.
Okay,
So
and that's fine. And I just wanted to make sure that if things were going on and doing stuff, that we're get that other stuff covered. That's why I said it will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, on the motion that's on the paper down, we're talking about next month, or our next council meeting, 2 weeks ahead. Brian, or our CAO was telling us that this other meeting, you better make sure we're very clear on where the province stands, so that it may not happen in that time. So I think you have to be careful that the motion can't nail it down to the next.
I don't think we need a motion to go around. But I think,
Okay.
I don't think we're going to vote on that motion. Because
All right, if we're not doing it, it doesn't make any difference then.
Yeah.
I was saying, if we were voting on, I did have one other question, that needs to be clarified maybe in the meeting with the province. Is back when Evan was with the engineer last time this came forward, I think, and that's where they said that we have to bridge in. Was there not talk of islands at that time too? Was that out the window now, or is that, because that's actually, we have to be clear on whether, or did they say we weren't allowed to put the islands in? Those wide crossings at the end of the East River East Side Road, and the end of the Collins Brook Road, those are pretty wide crossings for pedestrians. There's not much to say to what you're in the middle.
Yes, so the minutes or the meeting that this was discussed at was back in, I think, it was June of 18, 19. No, it would have been 18, yes. And so we did, Jane had the audio, so we did review the audio, and the audio that Evan gave that evening was around islands and those two crossings, and that islands may not be an option for there. So that'll all come out in the design. What is the safest way to get people across those?
What the province will allow and not
Yeah.
allow too, I guess is important, because we need to know that ahead of time. I think that refers to cost, but it's also refers to safety. For older people especially, or anybody with any type of disability, that's a long crossing. Across those wide openings that you're in the middle of it. We don't look at that safety factor and say, well, how do we protect those people, once they're out there? We don't, it's not like in town where you have lights and stuff to protect you for a certain amount of time. I think it's important that we clarify that with the province as well as the bridge issue. Because I don't think they wanted the islands out there, if I remember correctly, to block the access too much.
That was certainly what Evan communicated to the committee that night. And that he did indicate, and we're still trying to locate the correspondence, but it's a little more challenging when the employee's not here. So we're having to do a little more methodical search, but Evan did indicate that night that he had received correspondence from the area manager, and we're not sure which area manager it was. That's right around the time there was, I think, a change there. I'm not sure if Greg was here at that point. I think it was in between Troy and there's, I think, some acting people and then permanent and. Yeah, so so we're trying to locate that. It was email that Evan referenced, so we're trying to nail that down through a search. We don't have direct access to his email, so we've got to go back through kind of the history. But we are, I think those are the design considerations that we also have to have, right? Like what exactly are we designing, and what are the limitations on that design? So those are important considerations that we have to have, and hopefully we'll be able to get from this stakeholder meeting with the various players.
Just, I don't think any of us on council are qualified to design this. We're not going to fix this problem here tonight. What I would suggest is that I drive that road every day, and I come out at that intersection at the end of East River East Side Road, and I hear the complaints from people there too. This is an opportunity to fix a mess that's been there forever. There's a pretty hefty island that we put in as part of the project over on the Westville Road with the Wellness Center and that intersection. And I'm not sure who bore the cost on that, but it fixed the intersection at the end of McGregor Avenue. I'm sure there's a solution there somewhere, and the design will bear that out. I think what we need to focus on now is the design for the sidewalk from the pedestrian walkway on the bridge, on Bridge Avenue, beside the Esso station, over to the former Ultramar station on the East River East Side Road. So that's the area, and it would have to include that whole section where McClellan's Brook Road comes to an end, intersection there, as well as East River East Side Road going up through Plymouth. It's not for us to design, but we need to start. So if it's under the threshold for coming back to council, I'm okay with that. I don't think we need to do a pedestrian count. I think that's a total waste of money. People walk there now, and they're walking on the main road now. So I've talked to people. I'll give you one example of somebody that walks there. I was talking to a gentleman who drives a garbage truck for the local garbage, has the local garbage contract. He drives through there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he witnesses every week, every day of every week, a lady who walks from New Glasgow all the way to the Stellarton Industrial Park to work at Well Garments. And she walks that every day, and she has to walk that every day because she doesn't have a car. And now those are the people that I'm really concerned about. They have no choice. They have to walk that. I know Logan joked about what if he got hit. We actually had a lawsuit against us on this stretch of road, and they successfully sued. I'm not sure if our insurers were a part of that, but the argument was this gentleman was hit by a car because he was forced onto the street because it was impassable to walk through there on the pathways that are there now. So I'd say let's just get on with it. Design between the two bridges, whatever that looks like. That's not for us to say. Let the experts figure that out. Logan will deal with TIR or Public Works provincially. And if there's money there between the feds and the province, the first thing they're going to ask for is a design. So we need to get this moving. Thank you.
Hey, Councillor Dave Parker, then we'll come to a close here.
We have to be careful here. Okay, it seems that the bridge across McClellan's Brook has been pulled out of the design. But back 50 years ago, put that road through there, they modified the ending of McClellan's Brook Road, jammed down right tight to the East River East Side Road. And there could be very significant costs there. My point is the cost. Okay, why should the taxpayers of District 7 or any other rural district pay for the mistakes the province made in 1972? The answer is they should not. It's a matter of principle. So when we are negotiating, and that's what we're doing here, with the provincial authorities on the design, should be made clear. Kind will pay for a straightforward sidewalk. If you want to put in a whole lot of extra features, well, that's on your head. That's on the province's head. Okay? As I say, it's a matter of principle. Guy who made the mistake, guy being the province, 50 years ago, was still made a mistake, should address it. Okay, if I borrow a box tractor and I bring it back with one tire flat and the cab smashed, he's not fixing it. Okay, guy who caused the problem should pay, and the people who get the benefit should pay. That is the bet. You know, we're talking about $5,000 per survey. That would clearly indicate, because we've had all kinds of conclusions made here tonight, a little bit of support. They use this group of people, that group of people, this group of people. Let me know that. The answer is we do not. Okay, well, that is a $5,000 survey. Maybe one of the first things that the province or the feds will ask for. Who's using this? What benefit from? Can't just be pulling ideas out of the air.
should have some data to support us. That's what I've been all along this. Thank you. Okay. If you were, just for point of order, I think that motion is still on the floor, it should be taken off. Yeah. Will you move or take the motion off and second?
I'll rescind the motion as long as we deal with all of the issues between the two bridges. That's what I want. I can't understand this, and I don't think we need to deal with a pedestrian survey. All we're doing is funding the Ministry of Sidewalks.
We'll come back to Brian. If it's under the 50,000, then he'll move forward to see that, please, for the design of this crosswalk, and it's from bridge to bridge. Okay, that's what. Hey, Dr. Bowles, I'll turn it over to you so I can have my say, okay? Great, thank you. Brian, this meeting, do you know who's going to be attending? Is it yourself and Logan and Greg Chisholm and the design from Halifax, or is it?
Somebody dealing with bridges. So it's somebody of the design group.
Somebody else? Is it a woman?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's probably local. But anyway, I think what happened originally, that the wrong player was there at that meeting back in 2018. And he's caused a number of issues, so I don't think he's in play anymore. Maybe he is or not. I'm not sure. It depends on when he comes to show the meeting. But as a person that travels the road every day, I'll contest to, I'll show you a picture on the phone if you want to come up afterwards of somebody walking up over the snowbanks, trying to walk. I couldn't take pictures, but there's people walking on the road. There's people up in the snowbank. I pass it 4 times a day, at least 4 times a day. And I see people almost every time with it. Chester, you should see it when you're going to school, because when you're going by, I'm seeing people in the sidewalk. It is an issue that we should be dealing with. It's nobody else's issue but the county's issue, because it's in the county. As a matter of the Glasgow residents choose it. I get residents in my area that goes into the Glasgow to walk on their sidewalks. They don't charge us for that, because it's a safer place to walk. There's runners that run that loop. There's walkers that walk that loop. They're from the county. They're from all the towns. It's something that we should be dealing with. And we talk on this issue. It is needed, and I know the cost is the big thing, but there's federal money out there. We could get this done for what it would cost to just put in the sidewalk and everything else taken care of with the money that's out there. The purpose of it is to get this signed and then look for funding. If we get the funding, it came back to it was going to cost $800,000 to $1 million. This council probably would to keep that motion. So all it is to get the design, look for funding to see what it will cost, and then come back to council and say, look, it's only going to cost $150,000. Let's do it. We never asked the town of Star, we never asked the town of Westport for money for that sidewalk that's open now. That sidewalk was put in there for the kids to come down to the intersection, walk across the intersection, go to Gig Store, get a slice of pizza and hot for dinner. We had no surveys, we had no sidewalk study. So let's get this here done. Let's have us get the survey done, see what it's going to cost. Maybe it comes back, it's out of our range. We'll have to look at the other options, but let's get it done. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. The next is District 1 road name change. Right? Go with that?
Sure. The memo, I think, is self-explanatory. The name changes were submitted to the department after the last council meeting, and the Bannerman, I think it was Bannerman Way, was rejected because it didn't meet with the provincial road naming policy. And they're now suggesting Orchard Lane Road.
Yep.
And, the Middlebrook Road, because, they can drop the west because,
Over west and east.
it's no longer west and east, type thing, yeah, type thing, and there is, correspondence does indicate that the intermittents are not opposed to the Old Orchard Road, is the name.
Councilor Butler, you want to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I so move that the names suggested be the ones that we accept.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moving second.
I'd like to add that I also spoke with the families involved, and they're very much in favor of this change.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count by nay. Motion carried. Is there any emergency resolutions? Seeing none. Any referrals to council committees and noticeable motions? Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Respectful of the Jeremy section election tonight, and I'll add one more that I'd like to bring up at our next committee meeting or whatever. I've been requested to bring up about the length of time that we collect garbage, recycling, et cetera, from Cottage Road. I think it runs out at I don't know, what is it, Brian, at the end of October?
Yeah, it's the holiday weekend, I think it is.
This person took over John way, but they're wondering why that didn't go through, Christmas or whatever. They're saying that winter doesn't start later, which is some way through, not always. Anyway, I won't get into details of that, but we put that on the next agenda, so I can know we brought it up, talk about it anyway.
Okay. Councilor Bowles.
Yeah, excuse me. I'd like to have it put on a future agenda that, it's already talked a little bit on. We have a big water problem in the hillside, honestly too, but the hillside, the last storm, I get called to a home and the basement was flooded. It's not the first time that it happened. And also the pumping house there, I mean, it must have cost us a whack of dollars for all them trucks that were there hauling water over there all that day, or man, from the early morning right up to late night. So I don't know why we're not doing something, so I'd like to have it put on that future agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none? I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Allen, second by Councilor Dave Parker. All those in favor, signify by saying